3 weeks starting tonight. Grateful to Michael Thomas for coming tonight and talking to us, with us. I was trying to find a way to introduce him to you all. And also there's a few other newer people around, including Kelly from Wordhaven Books downtown, and Aubrey Lynn, who's been a pastor for some years now at the Unity Church on 8th Street. And these are all people that folks might want to meet. And so I just sort of put together what theme would we use, what theme could tie it all together, and I thought community building. How do you use your gifts and your passions and the people you're with in Sheboygan County to do good work? You know, we might even say build the kingdom, but to help build bridges and feed the hungry and lift up those who are in despair and so on. So how do we tie together our community, make it more closely knit? So Michael came to my mind, and he was willing to do this first kickoff. So thank you. I'm going to stop talking, but I told him just to tell us a little bit about who he is, where he came from, why he's doing what he's doing, and then we can have some question and answer also after that. So thank you, Michael. Let's welcome him.
All right. Thank you so much. I just want to say thank you to Pastor Jim. Since I moved to Sheboygan moved back to Sheboygan in 2019, he's just embraced me and been a great encouragement. And so I'm thankful for a fellow man of God, because we can never have enough brothers and sisters coming together and lifting each other up, right? Just to give you a little backstory, so I grew up in Milwaukee. I was born in Milwaukee. My parents divorced at an early age, and I lived with my dad in a really rough neighborhood, and I was the only a biracial kid around, and I was really coming under attack by all the kids in the neighborhood, and I could recall at the age of 7 saying how much I hated racism and how I was never going to allow the color of somebody's skin define the love that I will have for them. Pretty huge statement for being a 7-year-old, but we lived a very humble life. I mean, I think when it was time to get new clothes, my dad would go to the laundromat and go to the lost and found and claim clothes, and that's how I got a new shirt or a new pair of pants. And as I grew older, he would always tell me that my mom didn't love me, and that's why I lived with him, and I never got to see her. And as I got older, it really put a bitter place in my heart. And eventually, I got to connect with my mom as a teenager, and I got to find out that my mom did love me, you know? And it really soured my relationship with my dad to the point where, at the age of 14, he kicked me out the house, and I moved to Sheboygan to live with my mom. And that wasn't an easy transition, coming to Sheboygan from Milwaukee, and it led me to making some mistakes as a child. I didn't get to graduate high school, and then at the age of 19, I robbed a gas station. And then I was in and out of jail for a number of years on probation, and I really lived a rough, lost life. I moved from different city to different city, just trying to avoid getting sent to prison. And it wasn't until 2010 that I ended up going to church with my aunt. I was never a person that wanted anything to do with God or Jesus, but she convinced me to go to church with her one day, and in going to church, I got to hear the gospel, and I became a believer that day, and I walked away from my old life, and I committed myself to Christ. And it was the greatest decision that I ever made, and my life has become completely transformed ever since. I stopped thinking about me, and I started caring about God, and I started caring about other people. And after giving my life to Christ in 2010, I got the opportunity to submit to the call of ministry in 2012. And I was sent to different seminars and conferences. I got to share my testimony. And in 2014, I got the opportunity to be a church planting apprentice. And that was the start of my journey to becoming a pastor. I started my own church in 2016 in Milwaukee, and I felt led by the Lord to come back to Sheboygan and start a church here in 2019. In doing so, I faced a number of different challenges, and even today, I still experience highs and lows, but I would never take a moment of it back. I'm thankful for how the Lord has really blessed me and used me to interact with and serve people who were similar to myself, people that were broken, people that were hurting, homeless, in and out of trouble, people that didn't feel loved. And so leading all the way up until today, I've really been blessed with an amazing ministry. When I first submitted myself to the Lord, I was going to church here in Sheboygan. And I really didn't appreciate the hurdles and the ceiling and the walls that I felt prevented me from being able to serve and connect and do the things for Christ that I wanted to do. And I was really hesitant about coming back in 2019 because I was feeling as though I was going to face those same obstacles again. And I have experienced some of those same obstacles, but by the grace of God, by the love and fellowship of other believers, we've been able to break through some walls. We've been able to get around the gatekeepers. We've been able to overcome. And I believe we've made a great difference in the short amount of time that I've been able to be here in Sheboygan. So to share with you all the things that I'm doing now, I'm the head pastor at Hope Community Church. I am the head police chaplain for the Sheboygan Police Department. Can you imagine a guy that couldn't stand the police, running from the police, now is the first person that the police call for whatever circumstance that they may need. I started a nonprofit called the Black American Community Outreach, and the reason for that was just a few years ago, there was a lot of social unrest. We had a police officer here in town shoot a man. There was the George Floyd situation. There were some situations in Kenosha. And I really felt that the black community here in Sheboygan lacked leadership. And there was a number of people who didn't rightly represent themselves, and they didn't rightly represent the black community. And so I asked a number of individuals who I felt had a heart for community and had a great reputation, and that might be willing to come alongside and serve with me. And so we created the BACO, Black American Community Outreach, and we were able to put on Sheboygan's first Juneteenth Day celebration. And we led a walk for unity that brought people together. We partnered with the police department and the city, and we put on different barbecues just to bring people together. And I believe we've shown Sheboygan a different side to the black community, one that they've never seen before, and it's been great. You know, there's a lot of people who might feel that Black Lives Matter movement was too aggressive or too whatever, too divisive, but we've had nothing but love and support and have been embraced, the Black American Community Outreach, because what we've done is just only bring people together. We've uplifted, and our mission and vision statement is to empower and uplift the entire community in which we live. And that's not just the black community, that's the entire community. Not only that, I started a pantry at my church about 2 years ago, and we started receiving a large amount of food, so much so that we didn't have enough people coming to the pantry to come and get the food, and I didn't want it to go to waste. So what I did was I rented a U-Haul, and I just started driving all throughout the city, going to low-income housing apartment complexes, going to elderly homes, going to Fountain Park, going to Econo Lodge, where I knew hurt and broken people were, and I just gave away food. And we started off with bread and bakery and just some canned goods, and now we feed anywhere from 500 to 1,000 people a month, depending on the orders. I'm putting steaks and ground beef and a variety of quality food in their boxes, and it's such a blessing to be able to make a difference in so many people's lives, and just hear the appreciation that they express. And I believe that we're really just getting started. I was hesitant for a while to even promote it on social media, because there were a couple of times where I did promote it on Facebook, and the outcry was beyond what I was capable of doing. I was getting people from Illinois reaching out, Oshkosh, all throughout the state, asking if I could bring food to them, and of course I wasn't able to. And so that deterred me a little bit from promoting on social media. But I came to the realization that there's a great amount of people that still need food, and that we're not even serving, we're not even reaching. And so I just recently created a Facebook page, and it's in trying to serve this community on a weekly basis. Renting a U-Haul has been extremely difficult on not only myself, but my church's finances. So we just created a GoFundMe page, and we're hoping that we'll be able to raise enough funds so that we can buy our own truck and not have to rent a U-Haul. And so just today, I was given a call from an anonymous person, and they are donating $5,000 to our GoFundMe move for our own truck. And so that's very exciting, and I almost had tears when I got that. And so, but we still have a little bit more money to go to try to get a truck so that we'll be able to meet the needs of even more people. And we want to go all throughout Sheboygan County. I just got a message from a woman that's in a wheelchair out in Plymouth. She said, "What do I have to do to sign up? Do I have to be a member?" And it's like, "No, ma'am. You don't have to do anything. We will come to you, and we will gladly provide for you as much as you tell us that you need from us." And so I've been able to pursue a number of passions of mine. I started off coaching first grade girls about 10 years ago, because I have 3 daughters, and in coaching first grade girls and just continuing to pursue the passion and love for building up the youth, I got to go from first grade girls, and I didn't get to play high school basketball. I was too much of a troublemaker, and I had no experience. But I went from coaching first grade girls all the way to college. Last year, I coached at UW Manitowoc Green Bay. And unfortunately, they ended all competitive sports at the extension campuses. But I didn't have a problem with that, because now I'm getting to coach my 2 youngest girls that are in 4th grade and in 1st grade. And so I just feel that was all a part of God's plan. I've been able to get a wealth of knowledge that I can just pour into them. And so I'm coaching 2 teams. It's a 2nd and 3rd grade team and a 4th through 6th grade girls team in the community. Some of the pillars of the Black American Community Outreach is events, education and mentorship. And so we're really striving to take that to the next level this year. I'm currently looking for a location where we can have like a boxing club and as well as a dance club for youth. I don't know if any of you know, but Dollhouse Dance Factory is a national champion dance company right out of here in Sheboygan. But unfortunately, it's not affordable for many kids of color. And so we want to create an avenue that will allow kids who might not be able to afford Dollhouse Dance Factory to still have a way to stay out of trouble and do something that they might be passionate about, something that they might enjoy, but then also have people with the right intentions to encourage them and build them up and help them look past some of their struggles, you know. And the boxing club will take individuals that might be, you know, wanting to get into that ring, and we'll humble them a little bit, but we'll teach them, you know, how to be, you know, some of them be a man or just be a young lady and hold yourself and stand up for yourself and not be afraid. And so we're looking to get that established really soon. Some of the events that we're looking to, we're going to do an MLK celebration at the library next week. We're doing a Black History Month celebration with South High and the police department in February. We're going to have Juneteenth again. We're going to lead our Walk for Unity again. We're going to continue to partner with the community and do a community barbecue as well. And we're just going to continue to bring people together and show the city what it's really about. You know, we're better together, we're stronger together, you know, and for too long we've allowed the wrong things to divide us. And I think it's time that we come together and just bless one another, because when we do that, we show the power of Christ. Amen. And so I'm just thankful that Pastor Jim would give me the honor to stand before you and share all the wonderful things that we've been able to do here in the community. And if there's any questions that anybody would like to ask.
Besides, do you ever sleep?
Yeah, it gets rough sometimes.
I can't imagine.
But I'm working on that. You know, I have a wonderful wife that just gives me so much grace and love, and she's an awesome partner. You know, I wouldn't be able to serve the community if I didn't have somebody that, you know, gave me that freedom, but was an excellent mother and an excellent homemaker, and believed in the vision that God has given me. You know, so
Good.
yeah.
Wonderful. I have a microphone. I can come around and see if folks have questions. Hey, where's your church located?
It's on 11th and Wilson. South High is on 12th Street. We're just a block east on 11th Street, 11th and Wilson.
I also saw you at a rally having to do with immigration, or what was the theme, back at the courthouse a couple years ago. I know there's a lot of big crowd there, and you were speaking, I think. And so you have a lot of interests, a lot of different projects that you're working on.
For sure. So I believe the event you're talking about was put on by a Hispanic group because ICE partnered with our sheriff department, and they really were coming against, I guess, dreamers and the Hispanic community. And it just so happens that my wife is Hispanic. She came across the border when she was 6 years old. Her family dragged her. I never forget the story of how she was running and she lost a shoe. And you know, she's served this community her whole life. She started working for Aurora Memorial Hospital at 18 years old, and she just was celebrated for her 20th year anniversary at Aurora Memorial Hospital. Wonderful. So yeah, I think people might see you and think, well, this is who you are, and put you in a box, but never know the ties that you have to so many others, you know, and that's heartbreaking. you know, because we all bleed the same blood. It doesn't matter what color our hair and our skin is. It's all about, you know, what's on the inside, right? And I believe that we have a God that can transform and change every single one of us. So regardless of your past mistakes and struggles, we're supposed to reflect Christ and love people regardless, you know? That's how we win people over to Christ, by just loving them, you know?
And this weekend is the anniversary of Dr. King's birthday, so we'll be thinking about him all week.
Yeah, so we'll be at the library on Monday, reading books to kids and just sharing, you know, some of the things that he's accomplished, but then also trying to encourage the kids to come alongside us and help build for the future, you know. I've learned that some of the works that I've been able to do over the last few years, it's great that we've been able to change so many things and we've come a long way, but I've also learned that we got a way much further to go. And if we don't come together and put in the work as one, then we're only leaving more work for our children. And if I can make things a little bit easier for them, then I think I'm doing my job as a dad.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, question. I'll hold this in front of you there.
Well, and I haven't really formulated this yet, so.
Your name too.
Oh, hi, everybody. I'm Katie Pruitt. So I work for Health and Human Services, and in my position, I'm privileged to have opportunities to get in front of our 220 staff, you know, and teach about diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, and, you know, and really provide opportunities for us to come together and have some dialogue and just educate. But I find, I mean, there's challenges in this, right? These conversations can be difficult. And I'm wondering, as you're talking about, you know, trying to come together, either as a community or, you know, we're a community at our agency, right? Just bringing that community together. And sometimes I find, you know, I'm educating myself right along, you know, and learning and trying to figure out what words to use. And I struggle with that sometimes because even though it is my strong desire to you know, address these barriers and find ways that we can connect, you know, I'll have individuals say to me, well, racism isn't an issue at our agency. It's not an issue in our community. I don't always know how to put words to some of those things to bring people together. And I'm wondering, you know, because you've done a lot of speaking and you've you know, tried to do this many times, if you could offer some suggestions, maybe on things that I can do to continue my own education or ways that I can invite dialogue in a safe way that people would be willing to have conversation. Because what I'm starting to see more and more, and getting a little bit anxious about, if I'm honest, is some of the intentional ways that we're talking about dividing ourselves, right? Sure. You know, yeah. and I'm very concerned about that. You know, you know, I'm hoping that we can continue to move in a direction where we're having some good dialogue together. So I don't know if that makes sense. I hope it does. Thank you.
No, it does. It makes great sense. In coming here and really challenging others to be different, I've come to see that there are some that challenge back, and there's some intentionality in trying to keep things the same. And just to point out the great need for education at the highest level, not just people from, you know, at the poverty level. We just lost our city administrator because he thought we should have a safe space for racial slurs. And in my opinion, there is no safe space for racial slurs. That's what's held us back for many years. And trying to create the food pantry and trying to do different things with the youth and sports, I've gotten to learn that there's people who are in position of power, and they don't want to see change. They don't want to see diversity. They don't want to see equity. They want to see things be how it's always been, and they have a position of power, but they don't care about the things that they should care about, you know? And so I think we have to continue to push the envelope, continue to challenge, but then also call out those who don't have the best intentions for everyone else, you know what I mean? Because you're only holding us back all together, you know what I mean? What BACO has been able to do has uplifted the black community, but our intentions is to uplift the entire community. And now there are some that would say, well, who cares about them and the steps that have been taken, you know? And it's only beneficial for all of us. And so I think that we need to continue to remove people who only want to hinder progress, and then put in people that have a heart for community altogether, you know. And sometimes, as difficult that is, as that is, we have to break that yoke. You know what I mean? We have to tear down those walls. We have to build those bridges, because it's not beneficial to anyone to try to suppress anyone.
We're going to get a little more brave this year, so I'll let you know how that goes.
All right.
And your work.
Yeah, there's some pretty powerful things on the agenda. So starting in February.
I could tell you some things about some people that I've learned here, and it would probably break your heart. You'd be very disappointed. People that are your CEOs and presidents of companies right now that you might give to and support, and you had conversations with them, and it was wonderful. And I've had conversations with them, and it was sad.
Did I see a hand over here? John, maybe?
Yeah, I was going to ask, have you approached any of the local auto distributors about special deals on trucks?
Well, Sheboygan Chevy just did a food drive for us.
Okay.
Yeah, that was wonderful. But I've talked to a couple of dealerships, and I haven't had the luck of getting sponsored in that type of way yet. So, yeah.
Are you must be plugged into networks of food distribution, that like the food bank or food pantry? I mean, there's a network of food pantries, right? And are they communicating with each other? Is it fairly efficient?
Yes, so we receive food from the food bank. We receive food from other pantries, Pepsi, Woodlake Market, Meesville's just became a new partner. And so we're only building more and more partners. One of the struggles, though, is that I lack people that can come alongside of me and take some responsibility off my plate, you know what I mean? If I had someone that was maybe a letter writer, you know, when we first was trying to take the pantry to the next level, I wanted to separate the pantry and the church, just because I wanted any and everyone, regardless of your beliefs, to be able to come and get food. And a friend misfiled it and made it a not-for-profit, so now we have to have it refiled, and it's just another thing that we got to do, but we're working on it, and yeah, so there's just new challenges that arise, but we're going to step up to them and eliminate them so that we can be efficient in how we serve.
Good. Yeah, Dick Manny.
Yeah, a couple of questions. The first is the congregation that you serve, the numbers, the talents, the hands available to help you. It seems clear that the need is so strong that it would be difficult for you to have enough help. So number one, how do you find your congregation supporting these ministries? Do you find that support is adequate for the ministries you're pursuing right now?
Well, sadly, no. I was getting paid as the pastor of my church, But over the last 3 months, I've had to decline a paycheck just to make sure that we could continue on with the mobile pantry, because I felt the need and the hundreds of people that we serve cannot come to an end. And really, the numbers are only growing. And so I've debated with myself about getting another full-time job. And then I'm also just hoping and counting and trusting on the Lord to make a way, and if we did get this truck, then that would relieve some of the burden that the church has in trying to help serve. But no, I have a small congregation, and many of the people that are in my congregation might be at the poverty level or underneath that as well, and so this isn't, we don't have the resources that we should, but I just believe in my heart that help is on the way. Even though I don't see it, we walk by faith and not by sight, right?
Yeah, that was my sense. So helpful, though, to hear you comment on it. The second is a structural question, societal question, and that's related to the criminal justice system and what many of us might call the inherent injustices in the system and the heavy pressure and burden laid upon the backs of many black people. And your perspective on that, maybe in the congregants that you have. I'm wondering how we, over time, address that issue. How much can that be addressed concretely in our face-to-face relationships here and now, as opposed to in political process and decision-making on other levels of government?
Well, that's an excellent question. I believe it was 2006, maybe. I'll never forget it. The Sheboygan Press put out a story on Father's Day. Now, if you can imagine, on Father's Day, that's the one day that we get to kick up our feet. Breakfast is served to us, and they give us the newspaper. And on the front of the newspaper, it said, more blacks arrested, pulled over and arrested in Sheboygan than all of the races combined. And at that time, Sheboygan had maybe 500 people, 500 black people. And now, not every one of those 500 is getting arrested, because some of them are children, some of them are older adults that hardly leave the house. So then that speaks that there's just a pocket of maybe 200 to 300 individuals that was arrested more time in a year than 50,000 others. So we're talking 0.3 in and out of jail more than 99.7. That speaks to discrimination. That speaks to racial profiling. And as a police chaplain, I believe that we have a wonderful police chief. He's actually from the same neighborhood that I grew up in Milwaukee. And he's coming here in Sheboygan, and he's been intentional about making a number of great changes, for which I'm very thankful for. But still today, and I just did a ride-along with a police officer a couple of nights ago, and we were talking about it, and things have not changed very much. The things that have changed is Sheboygan's black population has grown to a few thousand, but we're still the smallest minority, and we still far outnumber the entire population of Sheboygan in arrest. And I think, you can pull over a person because they don't have a license plate, but after a while, you just got to move on and just, you're not doing anything but setting them back even further. And I know, like, everybody has an accountability of their own, but at what point are we really doing, like, there's a lot of people out here that, you could probably pursue as well, So that can be discouraging. But at the end of the day, people have to take accountability. If you look at, I don't want to say it too much, but yeah, people have to, it has to be an intentional change, you know.
Mike, how does the police department relate to the sheriff's department or the county detention center? I visited there many times over the years, and some of you may know Barb Rickmeyer, may she rest in peace. Her son was in charge of the jail down there. But do you guys work together? Do they have their own? I know is Pastor Rick still the chaplain over there?
Yes, Chaplain Rick is still
He's been there a long
at the
time.
jail, and he's a wonderful friend of mine.
Okay.
He's just been a great encouragement in my life. I can say he's definitely one of the true, genuine individuals that has a heart for all people, and you know, he sent people my way that he felt that I could help minister to. Our sheriff's department leaves a little bit more to be desired, but there's always hope. All right.
Yeah, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Carol, you have a question?
Well, I do.
There's a microphone. I'll hold it in front of you here.
So, you need my name, or?
Let's just say your name, Carol.
My name is Carol, and I have two boys that are biracial, and they're big, tall boys. And my youngest one in particular is an 8th grader, and he is really struggling with his identity. And a big part of that is the racial identity. He's coming under fire just simply by what you're talking about. I mean, people look at him and they see a big, tall, black man.
Sure.
He may be 14, but at 6'2" and 180 pounds, that's not how he's perceived.
Right.
And as, you know, a white mother who grew up in rural Kansas, I am finding I'm really struggling with how to support that and how I can have helpful conversations after school, like what you're talking about there. My experiences have been that the police in schools are deeply racist and that the administration does not want to talk about it. When we have tried to have conversations, we get shut down. And it feels like that's because if there are real conversations, then things will be explosive, that what they want is just for us to keep the status quo and keep the peace. And if we have any real conversation and any real change, that's going to be very painful and very difficult and explosive because it will ask for change. So I guess my question is, as someone in your shoes, what kind of conversations can we have? How can we have those better conversations? What would you suggest that we say, or you know, when we try to go in and have conversations with administrators that can actually do something about it, or to create the change? What would you suggest? I mean, how do we? Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have this low-grade PTSD that's never going to go away based on my interactions with the police, which have not been positive.
Sure.
And, you know, we know how to walk the walk and talk the talk, so nothing has happened. But I deeply feel that many kids do not have that. And the conversations I'm picking up is that a lot of teenagers are struggling with that. It feels like this is a huge problem that people aren't talking about, that these teenagers, these middle schoolers are struggling with their identity and racial identity and how to fit in here in Sheboygan, and they're having these experiences that they don't know what to do with.
Sure.
That's my impression, and I don't know how to do something with it to create, you know, so how do we, what should we be saying to administrators? And I don't know, you know, what
Help us out here, huh? Yeah, right.
No, I hear your heart as a mother, and you know, okay, I didn't want to, I won't pull any punches. One thing that we all need is people that we can relate to and connect with, right? And people with shared experiences, you know? And so I didn't have that when I came to Sheboygan as a lost 14-year-old. And so I just continued in my lostness until the point where I was in and out of jail and out of control, you know. And it took Christ to change me and transform me, right? But I see that same brokenness in a number of youth here in Sheboygan. They're coming from Milwaukee, they're coming from Sheboygan, or they've been here, but they've been in a broken home. And there's people here that could connect with them, but then there's also people here that, for instance, I was at South High School, and I was talking with the AD about working with the junior Red Wings. And I'm a South High alumni. My wife is a South High alumni. My daughter is a senior at South right now. And I told the AD, hey, I'm coaching 2nd and 3rd grade. I'm coaching 4th and 6th grade. Your best players on varsity right now. I used to coach them back in the day. And Sheboygan South is the most diverse school in Sheboygan. It's primarily more colored than anything. And he gave me another hurdle. He said, because your kids go to Sheboygan Christian, then it's not beneficial. He can't trust that I would send the kids to Sheboygan South, despite having a kid, and my kids are in elementary school, you know. And we've conversated, and he told me that he's had conversations with kids of color in his office, and he's tried to recruit them to be on the basketball team. And the problem is, he's not going to be able to recruit those kids because they're not happy with that program, and they're not happy with what's going on there. And if they had a conversation with me, and I was a part of the program, I think I'd be able to change some of those kids' hearts just like that. And I've told them I've probably even talked to that same girl that you had a conversation with already. And then he went to tell me about how these names, the Petersons, the Schomburgers, or whatever. And it's like, what about the kids that aren't a part of the booster club? What about the kids that, you know what I mean, like, could make a difference? Your program is already terrible, and you would rather sabotage it to appease one people, and a whole nother group who could come along and help out just as much won't even have an opportunity. And it's because they know that it's not really for them. And here I could be saying, I want to put kids in your jersey, and I still would get it rejected, even though I was an assistant coach at South, even though I've coached all the way to college. And so that's just, there are people here in Sheboygan that just put hurdles and roadblocks and speed bumps to prevent us from ever moving forward. And so what I think we need to do as a community, as a people, is demand change and say, enough is enough. This is not acceptable. Okay, how have you proven that you're going to make it great? Well, I don't see any evidence. Time to go. You know what I mean? And it's not just there at South, but it's so many other places. You know what I mean? People lack education. If they don't know much about this community, they're not trying to get to know this community, this people group, then it just perpetuates. You know what I mean? And then these kids who never got the chance or who felt rejected build up anger, animosity, and they say, screw you, and you know what I mean? Like, there was a time I hated Sheboygan. I didn't want to come back. God made me come back, you know what I mean? And I still face, you know, there's times where it's like, you know what, I talk to some officers, and I say, won't you come alongside me? Help me do this. And they're like, man, I'm trying to get out of here. I can't do this. But if I walk away, then what about your son? What about the other kids? You know what I mean? And I can't stop the fight. And 1 second, I just want to share with you two scriptures that come to mind. Jacob wrestled with God all night, until God broke his hip. But then he held on to God's leg and he said, I refuse to let go until you bless me. And then God blessed him and named him Israel. And that changed everything from what we know when it comes to the Israelites, right? And then not only that, but there was the story of a Canaanite woman who approached Jesus and said, my daughter is cursed with a demon. Will you heal her for me? And Jesus says, no, I'm not here for you. I'm here for the children. And he even called her a dog. And she said, my Lord, even the dogs get the scraps or the crumbs that the children don't eat. And then Jesus said to that woman, woman, I found no greater faith in all of Israel. So Jacob could have accepted just getting his hip broken and God walking away from him. And this woman could have just accepted Jesus calling her a dog and not blessing her daughter, but they didn't accept it. And she got her daughter healed. And Jacob got his whole life and his children's life transformed. And we can just accept the conditions that things are in. We can accept the BS that we have to, I'm sorry, Lord, we can accept what's going on here, or we can say, no, you're gonna change things. You're gonna bless us and you're gonna bless them, and we're not gonna, not anymore. You know what I mean? I'm not letting go that these are two individuals that challenged God, and God said, okay, I'm gonna bless you. And so maybe we're not going before God, we're going before man, and we're going before a woman. And if they're not gonna bless us and do right by us and our children, well, we can get rid of them, right? So.
Yeah. And there's that parable of the scattering of the seed. So some of the seed falls on bad soil and it just isn't going to do anything. But if we're scattering enough and tending to it where we can, there's good soil in pockets, right? And we can help and nurture that, and hopefully people see, oh, that maybe it will work. Maybe it is worth sticking around and not leaving and helping build something new alongside the old, because some folks aren't going to want to go there. They're vested in their status quo, or they're too old or too close to retirement, or don't want to get uncomfortable, but you got to just work around them, right?
For sure.
And then that'll fade away eventually, and you have something new in its place.
Yes, sir.
How about your church at Hope Church? I know a little bit that you had come here and started a church.
Yes.
And then there was another church where the pastor was retiring. Some people may not know that story. If you could just briefly explain
Yes.
how you got the church you're in, how you brought it together where you are now.
Absolutely. So I started a church plant here in Sheboygan, and Pastor Mike Lewick also was a church planter, and he started Hope Community Church. And he was the pastor there for 6 or 7 years. And he was ready to retire. Now, I had not even moved to Sheboygan yet. I was just driving to Sheboygan, looking for potential places that I could rent and have a church service. And I wasn't gonna move up here. I would just have a service on Saturday, and then I would still have my church in Milwaukee on Sunday. And I'm limited in myself. I'm not coming back to Sheboygan. But a couple of churches of a particular denomination said, hey, we would like to support you. If you move to Sheboygan, then we'll give you members of our congregation. We'll give you some support financially, and you can even use our building for free. And so I looked at it as like, this is a God thing, you know, that the two churches hadn't worked together in years, and they wanted to support a multicultural church. And here I come, bridging that gap. And so we were like, okay, this is everything, this is God. And so my family and I disassembled the church in Milwaukee, and Pastor Mike Lewick before I had moved up, he was like, "You're going to be the next pastor of the church." I'm like, "No, I don't believe so. God didn't put that on my heart." And so we moved up here, and it just so happens that we started having church services at Hope Reformed Church. And we made the front page of the newspaper. I was baptizing people left and right, and we were seeing this incredible amount of success for the first 6 months. But those two churches never lived up to their end of the bargain. They let me use the church, but they never gave. They never sent any of their members of their church to help disciple my church members, so then eventually my people would grow and mature. And after about 6 months, I was like, "Hey, like, what's going on? Are we going to be able to like take the next step?" And they were like, "Oh, well, no, you got to join our denomination," and which was not a part of the deal. And so I was like, "No, I'm not going to do that." And so I continued to have church services at a different location on 8th Street at the upper room. And maybe I did that for about a year until the Lord pricked my heart, and I still stayed in contact with Pastor Mike. We had became friends, and then God just made me think, like, you know what? This is something that you've always wanted. You wanted to establish congregation. You wanted to have elders of a church that would come alongside you and do ministry with you. And so I said, all right, you know what? I'll pursue this. And so I got named the new head pastor of Hope Community Church, and the congregation that I had started said they wanted to come along with me and join me at Hope Community Church. Now, Hope Community Church was made up primarily of older Caucasian members, and my church was completely different. I mean, I had 20-year-olds to 80-year-olds, black, white, and Hispanic. And so when we tried to merge the two churches, it was just a culture dynamic that didn't work, you know. They were used to a certain style of music, where my church was used to a different style. Members of my church get excited and say amen and hallelujah really loud, and it's not a problem. Where members of Hope were like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on here?" And so
But if anyone could hold them together, it was you, right?
well, you know, I did my best, but unfortunately, you know, it somewhat fizzled, and the church reflects what it is now, incredibly diverse. But yeah, just a part of the challenges of ministry. You know, you want everybody to, you know, come together and, you know, just worship God and love God. But unfortunately, some people can only do it a way that makes them feel comfortable, and you know, if it's different than what they know, then they'll move on from it. You know, people have to want to serve God and know God in a different way. You know what I mean? So,
Good.
yeah, I believe she had a
No,
question.
thank you. Was there another question? Oh, Laurel.
I was going to suggest, based on Carol's comment, but I wonder if we could get various congregations around Sheboygan and have you speak to different ones. And instead of, sorry to put it this way, I know we have some teachers in our midst. Instead of pushing it down on the teachers or the administration, have it come up through the grassroots, through parenting, and through that. I think that's an easier way to change a school culture is to have the kids come to school with parents who say, this isn't right. We all, the community, want to fix this.
Yeah.
And address it that way, as opposed to one or two individuals saying, hey, I'm not happy with this, you have to change.
Sure.
But come up, and I think churches are a really good vehicle in this kind of a community to bring that message into the school systems.
No, you're 100%. It has to be united stand. I mean, because I'm quite confident that there has been a few parents that have said, hey, this is not cool. Like, I know some of those parents, and this needs to change. But unless you have a united front where you have a strong gathering and a united voice, then it'll fall on deaf ears, you know?
Sure, and we know of the tension with church and schools, and it's hard to, you may have experienced this, where pastor comes into the teacher or the principal or the AD, and it's like, well, gosh, I don't want to go there with the church state stuff or just proselytizing, or they don't, everyone's got their favorite denomination, and I don't know what you're about, so I don't want you coming in to talking to my kids or mentoring them or whatever, so.
We all managed to play softball together.
We all do. We all have a lot in common. Yeah, and teachers, administrators come and go. We all come and go, but the families live here, growing up here. They're going to raise their kids here, so that's a cool idea to build up your family.
I think that, and I'm brand new to the community, so I don't know if it's fresh eyes or if it's naivete.
And you're going to be new here for the next 20 years, so just telling you, just warning you. Yeah, yeah.
I've been there before, been the outsider for many years. But if we can get people to understand that the quicker we work together as a community, the better we're going to be, and we won't be another kenosha. And we won't have some of the problems that other diverse communities have. And getting to understand and appreciate each other and learn to support each other is the best way to avoid that kind of a issue coming to this small community.
Absolutely. I mean, so the BACO wants to uplift the entire community, right? But as much as we want to uplift the entire community, we need the entire community to want to uplift us as well. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you'll have people that despise their own community. And what do hurt people do? They hurt others. You know what I mean? And that was me. I was a young man that was hopeless. I had no vision for the future, and I didn't care about myself. I didn't love myself. I didn't have anybody to mentor me and encourage me and build me up and tell me I was capable of more. I didn't have anybody to sit next to me and help me with my homework. You know what I mean? And so I didn't do it. And I look at these kids today. I'm passing out food at the bus station. I'm meeting them where they're at, and I'm telling them, like, I don't care what you've been through. I'm ready to love you just as you are and help you grow to be a better person, because you need to be a better person, but the world needs you to be a better person, and there's not enough kids having life spoken into them. You know what I mean? They might hear nothing but criticism and hardness at home. And then they go to school and there's not a whole, they might have some friends, but those friends are in the same boat that they're in. And so all we know is negativity, and we need the right people that'll come and say, hey, and you know what also changed things? This kid that's never known a person outside of their race, show them that, hey, even though I don't know all the things that you've been through, even though I can't relate to everything, it doesn't matter, because I care about you. Yeah. And that's what matters. And when you show them that type of love, what's that saying? Nobody knows how much you care till you show how much you care, right?
No one cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
You got it. There it is.
Yep. Well, there's variations on that. That's good, though.
For sure.
Nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
And it's a difference maker.
I'm aware of the time. We sort of say an hour. An hour is not much time to do anything, but we'll officially adjourn and stick around for a few minutes if you want to talk. I just wanted you to meet Michael, so when you read about him in the newspaper or on Facebook, you can say, I know him, and I want to be somehow part of the work that he's doing, that all of our churches and nonprofits and agencies and teachers and police men and women are trying to do too. So thank you for your being part of that. Bless you. Thank you, thank you.